Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little knife right here. This is the Kizer Titanium Begleiter. You may have remembered seeing the Kizer Begleiter very, very early on in the channel's history. I picked one of those guys up for review and was actually really impressed with it. They did a great job making a very budget-friendly knife that was quite good. They had some annoyances there, painted blades and whatnot, but it was pretty damn good. And so I was really excited to hear that they were putting out a titanium version of the Begleiter. But first, actually, before I go any further, I should do my full disclosure here. This was provided to me directly from Kizer as a review sample. I told them, as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, might be a gem, might be junk, and they still sent it along, despite my having called things junk in the past. So brave at some level, but there's that. So you have to keep in mind that this is probably the best quality controlled one of these ever sent out, and that I've done my best not to let that affect my review, but there you go, full disclosure. Next thing, this is, like I said, a follow-up to the original Begleiter, which is a very similar sort of design. The original Begleiter had a drop point blade, a little bit more reasonable, but this one nevertheless is that. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this very cool little knife right here. So on the good side, ergonomically speaking, this is good. This is a good freaking knife in the hand. Everything works out nicely. The clip is nicely rounded and contoured. The handle is great for my relatively small hands. Just every damn part of this knife feels really good in the hand. You're a little bit far from the cutting edge. You can choke up if you need to, but it's a little bit sketchy to do so. But ergonomically speaking, this is pretty great. Next thing, this is very, very lightweight for the length. And we'll take a look at the length right quick first. Did I not do a size comparison? I did not. I don't think. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Spidicodelica, Ontario rat number 2, and the Ontario rat number 1. So you can see here, these are, this is a reasonably big knife right here. Wow, I am just all off my rhythm today. But anyways, that's your size, but let's go ahead and do a quick measurement real quick. Now that I've done that, we are seeing this comes in right over 3.5 inches. So there you go. But overall, for the size of it, that's what I was getting around to saying, for the size of it, this is actually quite lightweight. Coming in at 3.5 inches at 2.89 ounces. That's really, really impressive. I'm a big fan of that, and they've done a lot of internal milling to get that price down to that area. And it also carries very, very well because it is a very long, thin knife. I mean, you can see here that in terms of size, I mean, we are longer than your Delica here, but not by a huge margin, but we are also markedly thinner, and that's great. This is a really, really nice knife to carry. It carries super well, and coupled with this nice deep carry clip, which has a very good amount of flex to it, just nice. This really is a joy in the pocket with this low-profile flipper tab, which is not really pecking on anything in your pocket, and nicely rounded on this. Just nicely done there. Next thing, the blade on this is great. This is S35VN, which is an absolutely fine steel. It's a great steel, as a matter of fact, but more importantly, look at the freaking edge on this. This thing is super thin behind the edge. If we look at this edge on here, you can barely see the edge, and then up at the tip here, holy crap, is this thing thin. This is one of the very best grinds I have ever seen out of Kizer knives, and it's one of the better grinds you see out of factories, period. This is a really, really nice grind, and it's also well finished. You can see here there's a little bit of reflectivity to it, just to catch that glimpse of the Batman mask and the setting sun. Always poetic, right? But it's just a really great blade. Whether you like the Tonto or not is a separate and individual question, but boy, is this going to be good for cutting. I really enjoyed carrying this and cutting with it. And then finally, on the good side, this is a really nice price. It's $170, which, you know, certainly that's a chunk of change, but compared to what Kizer's been charging $200 for, $250, this is really, they've dialed up the value here, and they freaking better. That's a really good thing. This is trying to remind people why you buy knives from Kizer, because they can deliver good quality at good value. Sometimes. They don't always, but this is certainly a case where they are delivering, and historically that's how they got their start, is by delivering really surprisingly good quality for very good prices. And so to me, at least, seeing that price at $170 feels really, really nice. It's like a return to the days of yore, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So all of that is the good. Price is solid. It's a great blade, carries well, super lightweight with good ergonomics. On the great side, to me, what's great about this knife is that they have very clearly gone the extra mile. They have made a lot of good choices here in terms of implementation. They put this nice pivot collar on there, which is just a nice little step and happens on both sides. They have this really super thin blade, not just necessarily the blade stock itself, is reasonable, but the blade grind is amazing. It cuts really, really well, and they put some effort into that. The action on this is great. Absolutely 100% reliable, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Great. It has a lock bar insert, which is great. It has an over travel stop. It has a lock bar relief, but not only is the lock bar relief there, I mean, all frame locks do, but it's really nicely done. This little pyramidal thing going on there, nice. And then they've done crazy amounts of internal milling here. I mean, watch my disassembly video to get a better sense of that. And by the way, this is a knife that is really, as I carried it more, I learned to like it a lot more. I was a little bit bearish in the disassembly, but now as I've carried this more, I've really fallen for it. I think there's a lot to love about this guy. And so overall, though, this feels like Kizer flexing. This knife feels like Kizer saying to the world, hey, you can get good knives from people who aren't we or Rayot or Bestech. This is really Kizer trying to show off we can do all of this stuff. Take a second look at Kizer, and that's good because they are a company that needs to flex right now. So to me, that's what's great, is that they've really gone the extra mile, and they're doing some serious flexing here, and I love seeing that from them right now. Up on the bad side, the blade on this guy is just over that 3.5-inch line. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it's kind of the nature of the beast, I suppose. Actually, that's not true at all. They could have just reduced this angle very slightly and gotten out of that. So that's not great. Most people aren't going to have trouble with that, but if you're the wrong person in the wrong neighborhood with the wrong kind of a jerk of a cop, you're going to have a bad time. So keep that in mind. Next thing, this is a free spinning pivot. Not a big fan of that, but whatever, I guess. Next thing, this definitely does need some jimping on this flipper tab. Oh, thank you, child, for screaming at the top of your lungs while playing. That makes my reviews much better. Appreciate it. Anyways, this is requiring some jimping. Oh, the joys of apartment living. This guy requires jimping just badly. This needs to be jimped like yesterday. Because unfortunately, just having this smooth surface here, if your hands are any kind of slick, if you are in the Vaseline factory, that's not great. The rest of the grip provides you with a little bit of texture for the Vaseline factory, if that's an issue, but the flipper tab definitely could use a little bit of texturing. And then finally, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Tanto here. I mean, Tanto blades are good in that you have a little bit of extra blade for scraping there. I mean, it's no weirder than some of the other blade shapes I like. So, what are we talking about here? There's a Graham Razel GT mid-tech. But nevertheless, I'm not a huge fan of the Tanto on this guy. So, given that they're going to be doing a drop point down the road, you might consider hanging out for that guy because this is a little bit aggro and perhaps not necessarily need to be. So to me, that's what's bad, is that the Tanto blade is a little bit here, but that's more a matter of taste. Some folks are going to love it. It needs a little more jimping on the flipper tab. It is a free spinning pivot, and the blade is just over that legal line. Ugly front, nothing really ugly here, so let's go to the final conclusion. To me, this knife really feels, maybe I'm over-dramatizing, but at some level it feels a little bit transformative. It feels like Kizer is kind of taking off it's like the scene in the action movie where the hero takes off the jacket, pulls up the sleeves, and gets ready for a slugfest. Slugfest? Does anyone say that? Okay, whatever. This is Kizer stepping back into the fight because they are showing us here that they can do great build quality, that they can do lots of extras, that they can go that extra mile, that they can drop this really good design, and they can do it all at a price that's very competitive. This is coming in under some equivalents from We Knives, and that's great. We Knives has really been drinking Kizer's milkshake lately, and it's good to see Kizer coming back at it. Sure, there were some minor issues, the blade just being a little hint wrong, long that is, and maybe wrong by some measures if you don't like Tantos. The blade, the pivot spins freely. The flipper tab is a little slick, and I don't love the Tanto. But look, mostly this is excellent work. And the more I carried it, the more I kind of enjoyed it. I think this is a very, very nice knife. And I think, like I said, this is Kizer taking very clear aim at We and Bestech and Rayot and saying, hey, look, guys, we can do impressive work here, too. We're doing more than just, roundish slab-sided knives with blasted handles and S35 VN. This is a nice knife, too. This is the Laconico Yorkie. But nevertheless, Kizer has been sort of in their niche for a little while, and this definitely steps outside of it. Because they're going the extra mile here. They're doing all the crazy internal milling. They're really upping their game in this in a way that was kind of unprompted, but is super welcome, especially on the value front. And so that is a very, very good thing. I love seeing Kizer pushing. I love seeing them really fighting again. I like seeing them pushing on the value, pushing on the quality, pushing the machining. Because I hated seeing Kizer slipping kind of during the Feist era, where it felt like maybe they'd gotten a little complacent. Maybe that's not true. Maybe they've been consistent throughout, but there was a time of troubles there. And so I really like seeing them pushing this, because that's how they avoid becoming kind of your mid-tier Chinese maker below Wee and Bestech and Rayot and the rest of them. If they keep making knives like this one, at this kind of a price point, with this kind of machining, they will absolutely work their way back towards the top. But all of that is, so I think this knife, in summary, there is a very good thing, and it's a very necessary thing for Kizer. I think this kind of thing is how Kizer claws their way back up towards that top and gets, the higher-end OEM work that I think a lot of people have started to look elsewhere for. But that's not about this knife itself. This knife, per se, the one on the table here, is good. It's very good. Look, I don't love the free spinning pivot. That frustrated me a little bit. I was having a rough day during the disassembly, but after I spent more time with this guy, I came to like it a lot. I mean, my own bias against sort of aggro-looking knives, as well as against Tonto blades, means this isn't going to be something that sticks around. I don't need a knife this big or this angry on a regular basis. But the thing is, this kind of build quality, this kind of machining, this kind of blade at this kind of price, I'm sorry, that adds up to gem. There's no way that this is not a gem. The original Begleiter was, and this one is too. And I think once the drop point version hits, which I think is going to be more compelling for me and a variety of other folks, this is probably going to be a huge hit for Kizer. Kizer has done really, really nice work here. This is great, and it's above and beyond what they've usually been doing, both in terms of price and in terms of quality. So, Kizer, well freaking done. Keep this up. Keep up this fight. This is the kind of thing that I love seeing out of the company. This is the kind of thing, when I seeing Kizer trying harder like this is great. Make this a movement. Push the value, push the quality, push the excellent, because if this is a sign of what's to come, then the Begleiter here is absolutely beg-delighting me. Okay. Hope this has been interesting and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.